to lay the groundwork, basically, Alex Hormozi, I don't know how much you know about him, but he makes $100 million a year at like 33 years old. He actually came from Iran. His father moved him here when he was a young boy, and his great grandfather, I think, or his grandfather, something like a couple generations down the line, was very noble. He was one of the richest men in Iran, and he had 400 children. And yeah, 400 children. He had a bunch of wives. And what ended up happening is like by the time Alex was born, like he didn't even like know his name anymore. And none of the wealth was transferred. So Alex is not him and his wife, they're not having children. But they're gonna leave all of their money to different foundations and charities that they want to make an impact in the world. So it's not to say that there can't be legacy, because obviously that in itself is a legacy if there's institutions that are going to make an impact in the world. But he's basically saying that very rarely ever in history there's one person who leaves a lasting legacy like with their name. If I'm to think of literally two people in throughout history, like over time, that have led left a legacy. Um, it's one good person and one bad person. So the good person obviously is Jesus. So there's no doubt that his message has been passed throughout time.
Hmm.
But the only other person that I could think of that has made a lasting legacy, believe it or not, is Genghis Khan. Basically, it's
Mm.
like I forget like how much. I think it's like 1/3 of the world's population actually shares genetics with him, or something ridiculous like that. But it's like very rare that we actually leave a legacy. Like it goes back to what I was saying about institutions. It's not just institutions, but it's really just like where culture is in general that is the legacy of the collective of people. That's
Mm.
pretty much my whole thought about legacy. It's like each generation, it's like we're all contributing to society and how society is run, like how the quality of consciousness of everybody in society is a reflection of basically our parents and our ancestors, the work that they put into ensuring that. So that's my whole view on it. It's really a collective job, and I think that goes along with exactly what you're saying. But you're talking about like the individual pieces that everybody has, like, so I guess like really it comes down to like we do leave a legacy, but it's not always tied to each individual person who did it. It's measured within the state of a nation or a population.
Mm. I like that. Quality connect quality consciousness, I believe you said in there. I
The
like
quality
that.
of consciousness
Yeah.
of the population is the
Mm.
reflection of the work that the ancestors have done. Sometimes it's attributed to a single person or group, but for the most part, it's it's the collective job that our ancestors have done.
Hmm. And really getting back to like we're all connected. We're all
Literally.
like all connected. When you had mentioned Alex Hermosi and his wife leaving their money to foundations, that's what typically legacy, like when you google the definition of legacy, the first definition is money or property given to another by will. And I was like, dang, but like, what if you don't have any money and property to pass down?
Then
You know?
the knowledge that you have.
Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah, because
knowledge, the
you don't need
stories.
those other resources, because knowledge in itself is more powerful than any of that.
Yep, yep. It's a masterful resource.
Mhm. And to go further on like Alex's whole thought process on this is like basically there's a couple of different things. I might mess this up, but basically it's like there's this saying that nations are built by strong people. They use the term men, and then that's how they rise to great wealth. And then basically the generation after that benefits from the wealth, and they forget what it's like to have to go through the process of building that wealth. So then
Mm-hmm.
they become weak, and then the nation or the population or the society becomes weak as a result of that, and then the wealth decreases, and then there's uh, suffering, and then the next generation needs to do something about that, which
And then
creates
this start.
again wealth. And so then he ties this down to, so that's it on a collective level. He ties this down to the individual family, which basically, and I've noticed this even in my family, because of the way that my grandfather, he actually built a pretty big sum of wealth. And uh, let's take it away from me. Basically, it's like the pattern in the individual family is that same exact pattern. Like there's one generation that builds the wealth, and they go through the the process of earning it, and there's a lot that goes into that. And then the next generation, they try to preserve the wealth because they saw the prior generation going what they had to go through it, but they were a beneficiary of it, so they don't want to go through it themselves. And then
Mm-hmm.
by the next generation, they have no consciousness of what it took to build that wealth, so then they spend it. So there's only been a handful of families that have had their wealth transferred by generation, and they haven't been the best influence on society. They're actually probably the worst influence on society. But yeah, so it really comes down to like how well you're educating your family. So I think like
Mm-hmm.
Alex is unique because he's choosing not to have children, but I think that the way that I want to go about my life at least is to basically build massive wealth and consciousness, knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily pass that all down to my children, like give them like a good head start. But the thing that I want to pass down to my children more than anything is knowledge and consciousness, to be able to for them to understand what it takes to build that, help prepare them, and obviously not choose what they do to do that, but allow them to gain so much knowledge that they realize they could build it doing whatever it is that they want, whatever they're
Bingo.
called to, and then have them understand the importance of passing that down to their children. I think that's the only way to be able to leave a lasting legacy. And not like, I agree with Alex, it's not always going to be tied to your name. And I don't think that's what's important. I think what is important is the actual impact that it has on society.
Well, very well said.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
well
you.
said. Yeah. Yeah, you thought about that. That was good.
Yeah. I try to think about life because I've not thought about life before, and I didn't like where it led me. So,
Yeah.
and then I could view that happening in society as well. When societies don't think about these things, then it just doesn't lead to good situations either.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely comes down to education. Um, somebody, the founder of Render ATL, have you heard of that tech conference?
No, I haven't. Render.
Um, Yeah, yeah. He had tweeted something like, "Can we please leave the term generational wealth in 2023,
I
please?"
get
And
it.
I asked him, and I was like, "Well, why do you say that?" And he was like, I feel like it's a buzzword. Like there's no
Yeah,
generational wealth without any education. Like it starts with the education first." And I was like, "Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
If you don't know, if you could have $1 million, but if you don't know what to do with it, if you don't know how to put it into income generating assets, you're just
Yeah,
gonna might as well throw it out
eat
the
it
window or
up,
set it on fire."
literally. Yeah, go in the book Richest Man in Babylon. Have you ever
Yeah,
read?
another banger.
Yeah, so he talks about the guy who was teaching the wealth principles, says that don't eat your children because your money are like your children working for you.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's a good one. All right, Nick, I'm gonna let you go, man. This was a
Okay,
great conversation.
awesome.